Hi, everybody. Janet Eichorst here. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about, well, one way to describe it is re-entry, massive change. Re-entry is a term I use when I go away for a certain period and profound things happen, and I come back and I'm not the same person. And there's that process of trying to navigate who I am now versus who I used to be. And that process, depending on how much change has happened, can take what it takes. And that also can happen on smaller ways. Like you might go out just on a trip to the store and something profound happens and you come back and you know you're different, right? So that's what I want to talk about. That those profound transformations. I've been talking about this for a long time now. How we're doing quantum leaping. The ways that we can shift internally can be profound and dramatic, I will even say. So, this particular re entry experience that I'm still in, by the way, it was a long weekend. And so, when I came back home, I was like, whoa. The first thing I was struck by was a pair of shoes that I used to hike in and walk my dog in. And I was like, those shoes gotta go. Like, those shoes don't fit me. I kind of wasn't sure whether I liked them or not. And now I definitely don't. It doesn't feel like me when I am wearing those shoes and I need to pass them on. They're still in really great condition and somebody else can get a lot of miles on them and they're not mine. So that was one of the first things I noticed. And so as I go through my day and my processing with this new version of me, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that do not fit who I am now. And the other thing that really struck me was I was like, wow, this is what I created, right? My apartment, right? What's in my apartment? What has been meaningful to me in the past? This is what I created. And I was like, wow, past creations, is this still relevant? Again, relevant to who I know myself to be now. That's always a really great thing to consider. And I just want to put a plug in right now for kindness. This trip I was in stirred my internal pot a bit, right? There were some things that happened where, again, I was present to somebody that presented themselves in a certain way with a certain value system, and then I didn't see that being reflected in actions and behavior and in what they had created. And that, you know, this has happened so many times. And I know I'm not perfect, right? I'm not claiming perfection here at all. And every time this happens for me, I get to process it and see where I am with it. And this I'm sure this contributed to me being different when I walked in my front door, right? In this particular case, I had like, how do I want to say? Like, just like a, ugh, like really, really, like this is still what's happening here. And I don't judge myself for any of this, right? Like, I wasn't happy about it, right? Like, can't we all just be who we are and be in alignment with unconditional love and walk our walks? And the answer is, well, we are in alignment or we aren't in alignment, and none of it's wrong, and it's gonna be what it is till it's something different. And we're making these huge changes, and if I need to be upset about it, I'm going to be upset about it until I'm not. And that's part of the processing. And one of the dynamics, I'm seeing this in my mind's eye, so I'm going to share about it now, is this, how do I want to say this in the most accurate way? in the clearest way that I can. There are patterns, I'll say, in our reality where authority figures or older people might want things from younger people, and that it's not clear. And I felt on this recent trip that I had that part within me that still wanted a level of attention. And part of me, like, was like, I don't necessarily like talking about this, right? Like, this is pretty vulnerable and close in. I mean, I have experiences of being what we call abused, right? Where I was harmed by another on lots of different levels, including sexually. And so I also have that experience of not getting my needs met. And I don't have judgment about my parents or anybody else about this, right? I'm not making them wrong. I'm really not in this way. I'm just saying that was my experience. And those developmental cycles that are normal for us did not complete, right? So that's what happens for us, is that we get to go through and complete those developmental cycles, release any of those charges or the way that those patterns have been embedded literally in our systems, energetically, physically, whatever level they're embedded in, and to come to a level of wholeness that's within us, right? Our wholeness is always here. And so sometimes it feels like getting parts of ourselves back. And another way of looking at it is we're changing states to that level of wholeness where I feel and I am operating in alignment with that pure source creation that I am, that moves through me as me. So that's part of the pot that got stirred, where I got to observe part of that getting activated on this trip and then navigating it, right? Becoming aware of it, seeing that that's still active in this particular way, and then returning home, expressing, becoming that version of myself where that's not active like it was. And we know for these really deep patterns and conditioning that are collective, more collectively based versus more personally based, these are the layers of the onion that we get to be present to until we're complete. And I do have these moments where I am literally observing it, right, from a very whole place. And this one I didn't get too caught up in where I couldn't see it. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes I go so completely into this level of conditioning that I can't feel that level of wholeness in those moments. Right? And that's where I get to see many times the intricacies of how this is woven, stuck in, operating in the different aspects of my field. And so that happened on this trip, right? I know everybody knows what I'm talking about here, but there's that feeling of sometimes being left out. And this used to be much more active in my past, I'll just say, right? And so here I am in a group of, people, right, where we're all sharing this house together, and I was feeling that, and it wasn't very strong, and I was able to honor what was appropriate for me in the moment without getting caught up into I'm being left out. I don't want to miss anything, that fear of missing out. And that was super cool. And wow. and various other experiences of my life that really affected my behavior, where I had, it feels like stepping out of myself, right? Like my outside circumstances are determining what I'm doing in any moment versus my inner guidance system being strong and determining what I'm experiencing, what I do, and how I'm operating. So that was super cool. So, of course, when I've got all these different ways of navigating and these old things being triggered and having these really beautiful heart to heart conversations and experiences with amazing women, that's going to shift my reality. And so that's what happened, right? I walk in my home and I can see what I've created. And now I get to make decisions about what's appropriate for me now and what isn't. And I was really grateful for this too. Because, when I left a 32-year relationship and moved from a place that I was in for 25 years, I thought I would be back in a house right away. And that didn't happen. I got very strongly guided to go in this very small apartment, and it was like a pressurized cracker box that I was in for a number of years. I never expected that, right? And then finally one day that pressure built up and I was like, I need to move to a 2-bedroom, right? Versus a 1-bedroom, which I did, and which I'm in now. And I'm at the 5-year mark now. I was like, holy cow, I'm still in an apartment living, which really surprised me. Beautiful community. It's been really great in so many ways. And still, I'm a bit surprised because I like to work with the land. It's more difficult, especially when you live in a hot place, to grow in pots, right? And to work out sun. I've got these beautiful trees out front. I mean, it's you got to be attentive, and it's a lot of trial and error. So one of the messages I got, after I returned from this transformational trip where I'm no longer in a very big way who I was, you're like, this is the place that you're weathering the storm. And I was like, oh, I was happy that I was able to receive that and hear that. And mind you, I don't have complaints. The people I've met here, at one point, I was able to see kind of their dimensional aspects of the people that live in this apartment complex. I mean, there's 80 units in here. I have people that live above me in this. There's 4 on the bottom and 4 on the top. And I tell you, I'm not really fond of having anybody living above me because I can hear them when they're living their life, right? It's not my preference. And even when I've looked at homes recently, I was like, oh, 1 level living. That's what I like. 1 level living, right? And so there's nothing wrong with that, having that preference. And I've navigated it, having somebody above me with a lot of grace. And I do prefer being on the first floor I don't know, that's just what feels right. So that's a message that I received when I come back and I'm not the same person. So in your life today, how well are you navigating these prolific changes that you're experiencing? And I know you're experiencing them because our planetary consciousness is shifting. Gaia herself, the energetics on our planet are shifting. And this is very real. So our internal mechanisms are shifting too. And I'm a huge proponent of more love versus that's interesting, less, right? Of recognizing if judgment or shame is active and not really making a big deal out of it. Shame feeling like I'm wrong on some level has been in this consciousness for so long. And the institutions really have been designed to propagate that. And that, sometimes can be a tough thing to see. What we've been told, our history books, the information is written by the people that are dominating the culture in some way. And we know that there are so many different perspectives when we're evaluating what has happened in events. There are as many ways to interpret that as there are people witnessing it. And so a lot of and you can't call it propaganda, you can call it whatever you want, but coming to terms with what I have been exposed to, what I have been conditioned to, what is still very active in perhaps our institutions or our culture, and coming to terms with recognizing that sometimes can be a little tough. And every time I go through a big shift, like I'm in the midst of right now, there can be some disappointment, there can be a lot of sadness, there can be a lot of grief, and there can be fury as I come to terms with how I have been harmed and how that has been deliberate. And I remember some of it, not all of it. I remember the first time that I realized, because I was like, somebody did something that wasn't in alignment with unconditional love. And I was like, well, did they do it on purpose? Like, I really wanted to know that. And the answer is, yeah. Not always. Sometimes it's the unconsciousness, the conditioning, looping and repeating itself. And sometimes it's deliberate. And the example coming up right now is how people want the money that I have, and they're trying to sell me something. Because there's another level of just, can we be done with this? Like I'm looking at my emails and I was just like, unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. I don't want to be fixed. I don't want somebody like telling me the answer. I'm just kind of like, I'm done with another level of that, because it's a lot of that is more and more not in alignment with my belief system. I mean, I am a practitioner, and that's another thing that got really clear to me. My mechanism, my way of operating is empowerment based. I'm not trying to heal you, although you may be healed from our interactions. That happens all the time. And I'm not the one doing the healing to you. I'm a little fired up about this right now because I'm in this transitional space, and I was like, I can't do that anymore. I can't even read that email. I can't even, because I'm so about, and I want others, this is what I am receptive to, right? To whatever happens, I like to be inspired. I like ideas. I like it when people hold energetics, that offer potentialities for me. I like it when people reflect back things that are happening for me, in me, to me, so that I can be a version of myself that I like better, that works better for me. That's where I'm at. So, wherever you are in your life, my hope and my blessing, not that I'm the one that blesses, but my desire for you is to really embrace the version of you, the power within that allows you to make the choices that are aligned with you personally. And if you're in sort of a form of re-entry, or one day you look at your life and you see it with a particular level of clarity that might have emotions attached to it, that might be a little challenging to navigate, more love. More love for yourself, for your journey, for your badassery, right? That's what matters. So much love, so many blessings. Please like, please share, please comment. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time. Bye-bye.